welcome to this episode of The Daily. My name is Brendan Malone. Just before Christmas, I read this really interesting article that was doing the rounds on social media. It was sort of timed not long after the release of Star Wars The Force Awakens. And this article was really ripping into Star Wars and critiquing it for not being highbrow enough, basically, not being this deep and profound and amazing sort of cultural thing, and basically suggesting that there was something wrong with Star Wars because it was just so shallow and sort of a bit of mindless entertainment. I got to be honest with you though, I read the article and I respect the guy who wrote the article, but I just don't get it. I don't get that sort of criticism of Star Wars because, first of all, apart from every now and then George Lucas has had a bit of a lapse, but the people involved in creating it, they've never really talked this up as being some high significant piece of profound cultural commentary and high art. They just haven't. They have engaged in making a really wonderful and amazing sort of piece of adventure sci-fi escapism. And that's nothing wrong with that. It's good. We all need that sort of stuff in our life from time to time. Which brings me to my second point, which is that not every movie is meant to be some piece of high, profound art that speaks to the deepest longings of the heart of the human person. There's nothing wrong with good old-fashioned escapism and enjoyment. In fact, really, that's what cinema should be all about, I think, primarily. And that's what I think made Star Wars so great, was it really took cinema back to this idea, a bygone era, really, of the idea that when you went along and watched a movie, that it was this sort of great piece of escapism and theatre, and it was grand in scale, and it really took you to a whole other world, and Star Wars really did that well. And the third thing I think, which is interesting about this, is I guess some people might think of previous writings. For example, I think of Jane Austen, for example. A lot of people talk up Jane Austen as, well, have you read Jane Austen, darling? It's sort of one of those standards that people use to assess whether or not you are a sophisticated reader of fine art. Have you read Jane Austen? But when you think about it, when Jane Austen came out, remember there's no movies, there's no radio broadcast. This is in a previous era. Books were the primary, and plays obviously as well. But books would have been probably the most easily accessible form of entertainment for a lot of people, for the vast majority of people. And when those books came out, they would have been popular art. Obviously now, because of where things are at now, we look at them and we hold them in a much higher esteem. But at the time, they would have been popular art. They would have had their critics, like Star Wars does today. It wouldn't have necessarily have been some case of reading Jane Austen meant that you were engaged in some sort of high academic and profound act of sort of pursuing the deeper things of human existence. Instead, it was just a bit of escapism and a bit of fun in a book. And I think Star Wars is similar. It's just a piece of escapism. It's a great piece of fun. And at the end of the day, what the heck is wrong with that? Not every piece of art that is made has to be some profound and important exploration of the human experience. And saying that though, I think Star Wars does touch on some important universal themes around fatherhood and search for meaning and, virtue and the hero's journey and all that kind of stuff. So it does have little nods to those things, but at the end of the day, it's a great bit of escapist fun, and there is nothing at all wrong with that. Thanks for watching. I'll see you tomorrow on The Daily.